That's it, huh? Just debunk with just with a word.
Yeah,
I'm
he's nice about
quite
it.
happy to go into detail. Quite
I
happy
need
to
a
go into
tip,
detail.
That's what Shay said.
That's
Second.
Oh, really?
So how do I download it?
That's the bait.
This
guys.
is wrong.
He's thrown out the bait and he's ready to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I love fucking C2 fire observations. Like I DM'd Dan 5 minutes ago about one he posted half an hour ago from Barbados over to St. Vincent, I think. And you know, there's 1,000 meters, almost 1,000 meters of the island below the horizon. Like it's great globe evidence.
Let me go back and see what you're talking about. This island.
Go to your DMs.
Yeah, what's that big black line in the water? Do you have any explanation?
Black line.
Yeah, the giant black
bloody.
line that is clearly the obvious water line.
No, I think the obvious waterline is where the sun gets cut off.
No, because
there's a tiny mirage.
Refraction gain.
That said, okay, we shouldn't be able to see it 10 miles. No, in the video.
What are we talking about?
Oh, he was watching the live video.
Yeah, right.
So what do you think of the idea of me claiming that the sunset should be at the same point as the boat going over the edge?
Yeah, we were on that. We were deep in that, and then because I still had some thoughts in my mind about that. Roohif, what do you think? Have you heard that?
Of course. It should be the same, yeah.
So if I'm marking the sun at behind the island, doesn't that show that the sunset is at a different place than my geometric horizon?
That term, geometric horizon, the horizon is always refracted. This unrefracted horizon's point.
If my boat if I'm in a boat and my boat goes out of sight,
right,
10 miles away, just within 10 miles, and my sun should set at that same point from the observer. The observer sees the boat. Well, it doesn't, because these islands that you see the sun setting behind are many miles away.
Yeah, 110 miles away.
Right, but your sunset should be McDonald's close, like the boat.
Why? The sun's like 93 million miles away.
Not the light, because the disappearing angle is that you just admitted was the same, matching my boat disappearing.
Yeah,
the disappearance point is a point. It's a point on your little globe ski.
It's the leading edge of a sphere, right, Roohif?
Right.
Yeah.
So the sun and the island and the boat are all obscured by that same horizon. I don't understand what you're trying to say.
No. This boat in this picture doesn't count. I mean, my boat disappearing from your observation point.
Yeah.
Is going to happen before the island.
The point at which things get obscured is the same for everything beyond that point.
Right, so all I got to do is prove a distant sunset, and I win.
What?
I know, it's too simple for you guys. It's weird.
Well, Roohif, if he can show that that's not the case, where do you go from there?
We must be confusing each other.
Yeah, because it's not about the brightness, it's not about the distance, it's not about the size, it's about the angle.
I'm saying that there's a point, however many miles away, say 20 miles away, right, beyond which any object, be it the sun, that island, or your boat, is obscured. Bottom up.
So why am I seeing distant sunsets? Why aren't they close? Why aren't
they? What do you mean close? What do you mean close?
You just described a 20-mile point for some reason.
Right, that's the horizon, yes.
So that's where the sun sets.
What do you mean that's where the sun sets?
Wow.
What do you mean? You're saying the sun's 20 miles away?
You're a smart guy. You're a
You
nice
realize that
guy.
it's further away, right?
Do you realize that I really am talking about angles? Angle from your observation
Angles.
point.
Fine. Yep.
Okay, so the sun goes out of sight based on your geometric horizon.
Well, refracted horizon, but
Doesn't matter.
yeah, the horizon. Okay.
So you and I agree that my little boat called the SS Refraction is going to go out of sight somewhere between 5 and 10 miles.
Wherever the horizon starts, sure.
We'd certainly be shocked at the sun set at a different point.
It's not a different point. You're
It's
saying
the
there's
same
like two
point.
different horizons? I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, I'm trying to say that if I prove the sunset further away than the boat, I can prove that there isn't a physical thing. It's not the same point. They're different points by hundreds of miles.
What? What?
I
Like,
know.
do you understand? You understand that I believe the sun is 93 million miles away, right?
Do you believe in a 0-degree angle of angle of attack and vision? In other words, we're
I don't know
talking
what that
about
means.
when it goes out of sight. We're not talking when it's out of sight. Is that the same point my boat went out of sight for the same
Yes.
reason?
The
same
horizon
reason?
is the same for everything. There's one horizon.
I totally agree with you. So
Right.
when you
No, I
see
don't understand what you're saying.
well, you do see the sun setting 110 miles away.
The horizon is 20 miles away, we'll say.
But you see the sun setting 110 miles away.
No, you see the sun setting 93 million miles away. The thing that obstructs it is 20 miles away. The thing that obstructs anything is 20 miles away, regardless of how far away that thing is. I'm so confused. Like,
Yeah,
what?
so why am I seeing the sunset at 100 miles away? Why is there any vision of it at all at that point? It's out of sight. Don't you get out of sight?
No, it's not out of sight. It's
You
90.
described
Like,
it
you know
at
that I
20
think it's
miles.
93 million miles, right?
I said it was a 10. You said it's 20. But there's definitely a point I can't see over your ball, man. There's a point I can't see over your ball. When that sun disappears, we're no longer talking about an obstruction of any kind from anything. And the island is only a mile marker. So we don't care that it's not setting on top of the island. We just happen to know, wow, that sun's behind that island.
Yeah.
Now that shouldn't. It should be glaringly obvious to you that the angle shouldn't make it available.
Why? Why not?
Because the island's 100 miles away.
Okay.
So it can't be setting 100 miles away. It's got to set McDonald's close.
The sun is 93 million miles away. What does it mean to say it's setting 93 million miles away?
You absolutely agreed with me that the sun and the boat disappear at the same point.
Yes.
I
The horizon.
I called it 10 and you called it 20.
Yeah.
Okay?
Either's fine. Yeah.
Now, why don't you see the sun here in direct contrast to what we just discussed? Why isn't this?
What does it mean?
Why isn't the sun setting 20 miles away?
That's my question. What does that mean to you for the sun to set 20 miles away? To me, the horizon is 20 miles away, but the sun is 93 million miles away.
I'm going to prove that what you're requiring of my boat is a massive difference than your sun. Therefore, it's not a horizon whatsoever.
It's exactly the same. Everything further away than that 20 miles will start to be obstructed bottom up. How? I don't understand what. I'm so confused.
Wait, all right. First of all, I like you, so let's not ever talk about half suns or half boats. Let's just not talk about half suns or half boats. We're both aware that they have full bodies and full shapes. So you will imagine I'm talking about when the sun is absolutely at the last point and disappearing. That's where I'm marking it as going away. So I don't care about the half sun. And I don't care about the half ship because I'm going to go further than the half ship as well. So that's why we're calling it, let's say, 20 miles. So I know you can't see my boat at 20 miles, but yet I can see the sun. Why? And
because
here
it's above the horizon?
You know the horizon was at 20 miles.
Right.
Roohif,
So how did the sun jump to 110?
This is thoroughly... No, the sun's 93 million miles away.
No,
Roohif,
sir.
this completely breaks your geometry, Roohif.
Yeah.
How?
You
Please
guys
explain.
are done.
I'm thoroughly confused.
You
Thoroughly
guys are done.
confused.
It's
I know,
so simple.
We're with you, bro. We're with you.
So simple.
We'll
You got the team.
I'll just give you a hug, dude. Put my arm around you. We're gonna get to that finish line.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused. You know that I believe the sun to be 93 million miles away.
Its distance, its size, and its brightness are not in question once it sets. So guess what?
Okay.
Take your sun and shove it, literally where the sun doesn't shine at this point.
But
Put it where the sun doesn't shine, because that's the point I'm talking about. And
the
it's
horizon. We're just talking about
But it
things
didn't
being
happen on the
obstructed from
horizon.
far.
See, that's
What do you
the
mean?
thing.
What? What do you
Yeah.
mean it didn't set on the horizon? What do you mean?
It's a.
I'm thoroughly confused.
I could use markers in this case in the ocean to mark its distance as being further than the
Right.
obstruction. You do see it behind the 110-mile obstruction, right?
Of course.
And
Of
we
course.
see the water line. So we
Yeah.
have a great opportunity to not blame the mountain, right?
What do you mean not blame the mountain?
Everyone
Oh,
keeps
okay.
painting me pictures of hills, claiming that the sun sets in the hills, and that the angle of attack never gets to zero. The angle of
Oh, it gets
attack.
negative. The depression
Yeah.
angle to the horizon is negative.
So imagine from the observation point, the sun disappears because of its distance, not because of anything else, not because of its
No, it
brightness.
gets
or
obstructed by the horizon 20 miles away.
I don't know why you keep saying 20, but I'm fine with that. Okay.
20, whatever. Yeah.
Well, the boat, Okay, so the point is, there's a difference between 110 miles and 20 that you're not
Yeah.
recognizing. The picture
Most
shows.
of the island is obstructed by the horizon 20 miles away. You can only see down to about 950 meters elevation. There's almost a kilometer of that mountain, of the island missing. Is that the sticking point?
Well, are you saying that much of the sun is missing as well?
950 meters of the sun. Well, most of the sun is missing.
Due to refractive properties of the water?
There's always refraction. It's not an issue here. We're talking about simple obstruction. Do you
Okay.
acknowledge that there's almost a kilometer of that island below the horizon?
No, I know nothing about that.
Okay. Well, we can go through that. That's fine. But there's almost a kilometer below the horizon, obscured by the horizon 10 or 20 miles away, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, you go ahead and hug that thought. I'm going to stick to mine.
Which is what, that you can
Well,
see down to the shoreline?
If you look at the other images I posted, it's the same thing. If you look at Chicago in the distance, I don't know what you're thinking. Is the sun in front of it or behind it?
It's always going to be behind it.
Well,
Always.
mathematically, it's not true.
What? What do you mean? What? For it to be in front,
Because
it's got to be closer.
Because you're 20. Do you know that your 20-mile horizon happened before the 50-mile
Yes.
point? So
Right,
why don't
the
you look
horizon
at
is
Chicago
closer.
again and explain why the sun hasn't set before it?
Hang on. What do you mean? The sun is not in front. The sun is not closer than Chicago
You really
or
don't.
Vincent.
How could you guys not get? How can you not see what I'm saying?
I'm so confused. I'm honestly
You
so
should.
confused.
You should be, because it's too easy. Okay. The question of refraction isn't coming into place now when we're looking at this sun in the
Agreed.
city 50 miles away. We're not
Yeah.
arguing about why I see it.
Yep.
Now
Agreed.
the question is, which should be in front of the other?
Obviously, the sun has to be behind the city.
No, you just described the horizon being 20 miles away.
Right.
Well, the city is 50 miles away.
Right.
So you're confused by 30 miles.
I've never been more confused. Can someone help me out, please? I've honestly never been so confused. You're saying, we're saying you should not see the city or the mountain or the island
I'm
in front of the
asking
sun?
you which you think is the sun obstructing the city or the city obstructing the sun.
The city
Roohif,
obstructs the
I
sun.
could try to help you out right now, Roohif.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna happen, bro.
Okay.
You did this to yourself.
The sun is always going to be further away than the island or the mountain or the boat or the city.
Except
don't-
except when the angle's reduced to 0, where it goes out of sight. Do you understand that point is valuable to me because I have to share that point with my object I'm calling the boat. It's a shared point.
Okay,
So
but your
is
boat
my-
is always
is-
going to obscure the sun.
Man, are you trolling that?
Yeah.
Trolling
What
that.
the fuck?
No.
Awaken. Do you know what he's talking about?
He's saying, when the sun goes out of sight, then is it the city that's blocking the sun rays, or is it the sun like going away?
I don't know, man. I thought it was Roohif that was trying to make a point.
Honestly, I've never been so confused in my life about what your point is.
Well, you made my point when you agreed that there was a shared horizon based on the observer point.
Yeah.
That's when you got in trouble.
Oh, okay.
What?
That's when you got in trouble, bro.
You
don't
don't
remember.
observer when
Because
he
You don't remember when you got into trouble.
You stepped in a puddle.
Well,
It's
so how far do you think the sun is then?
It's not about that. It's about
It
the
doesn't
angle
matter.
from my perspective. It's about the angle from my perspective. You can illuminate it, you can size it, you can distance it, you can worship it. I don't give a fuck. It already said.
Right, you're saying the angle because the sun is above the Earth, whereas the boat is on the Earth. So there's like a difference in those attack angles.
No,
Angles
my
of
perspective sets the angle. My perspective sets the distance to the horizon. My
But I was
So-
saying that the way that the sun will be obscured from the bottom up versus the way that something on the water will. There's one of the differences, even though they're all visually lining up, the sun actually being above the Earth, the boat being on the Earth. I was just saying that there are different.
Oh, sorry.
angles
Give me
with
2 minutes. I'm back in a minute.
different angles.
No.
Back in 2 minutes.
Okay. You know what? Can everybody give Roohif 2 minutes to think about it? He'll be back.
he seems stumped. He's probably going back to listen to the last 5 minutes.
So I know I'm not the first person to notice this, but I don't know what I'm missing. You know, like he almost had me right then just by showing confidence and putting out a word, and I was questioning myself.
Motherfucker, listen. If confidence was the only thing to make you switch sides, I would have made you a fucking globe earther already.
Well, there is something that's referred to as like the artificial horizon, which is like if you have a skyline in front of the sun, that may not. Like, okay, it's actually 2 of the photos you posted above. I'm looking at them. So, essentially, what I'm trying to say is that over the water, assuming that it's a pretty clear day and so on, the sun is going to set at like the horizon, like the meeting place of the ground and the sky, etc. Whereas if you are in like an area where there's like a bunch of like let's say city buildings or something like that, like on a peninsula or whatever it may be, it's kind of referred to as like an artificial horizon often, where meaning that the sun looks like it's setting behind the buildings, but that just means that you're not able to see where it actually is setting. Beyond that, you're getting like an artificial cutoff because the buildings are in the way.
But you're so
There is a common phenomenon.
Hold on. You're so
There is a
serene.
common phenomenon to what fucking.
Oh, way out.
I was just trying to say what Gio's saying is on point, and there's a common fucking thing about that, which is why sometimes when we look at the moon, it looks big as fuck when it's down close to the horizon.
Ben, if you're just out during the day, right, and there's hills close by, we're not over water or anything, and the sun sets behind the hills, what about that is a problem? Like, I'm so confused about what you think you're
Let's
saying.
say the hills are 30 miles away.
Honestly, Roohif,
Well, I mean, wait,
like that would.
hold on, man. Just let Dan explain it.
Let's say that the hills were 30 miles away.
Yep.
Well, you described this horizon point as being 20 miles away.
Right.
How the hell are we talking about the hills? Who gives a shit? Sun set already 10 miles ago.
But you're showing photos where the sun has not set.
We're talking about your parameters of 20 miles.
Yeah, that's
Your
the ocean
your
horizon.
Well, you can play word games all you want. You got one ball and you got
Right.
one radius.
Yep.
So you can't play. You don't have much play. You only got one
I'm
curvature
confused
of the
why you
Earth.
think I'm playing. Why?
Because you only got one curvature of the Earth. You're trying to pretend at different distances it means something different. It doesn't.
There's just objects that are further away, and if they're further away than from the horizon, then they get obstructed.
Let's start over. You're 30 miles away. There's mountains,
Yep.
and you expect the sun to set behind them. Yet you
Right.
know that the sun sets much sooner than that.
What do you mean sooner?
You
Sooner in
described it
time?
at 20 miles. You described it at 20 miles.
That's the ocean horizon, but the hills are 30 miles.
It doesn't matter because we know the sun is setting prior to 30 miles, don't we?
What do you mean? No. What do you mean prior to 30 miles when something's 93
Because
million
it's the
miles away?
same curvature of the Earth. You remember the size, the brightness, and the
Right.
distance doesn't matter.
Yeah, we've got
doesn't
hills
matter.
though,
It
so
doesn't
hills
matter.
is not
It
an
doesn't-
ocean.
The hills that you're thinking the sun set behind
Right.
is crazy because you know the sun sets before.
What do you mean before?
You
What do
just
you mean before?
you described it at 20 miles over and over again, and you described it over
Right.
water. So convert
Yeah,
your
so we've
thoughts
got
to land.
hills.
Come aboard, get off your boat, come onto land, and
Yep.
decide where the sun sets now. Because suddenly you're saying it's over
Behind
30.
whatever is the
Why is it
highest
over
thing you can
30
see.
now? Why is it over 30 now when it's 20 over water? Why?
Because they've got hills. They're
I
higher.
like you. I like you. I don't want to do this. Just really tell me why your sun sets at a different distance.
It sets
Over
behind
different
whatever
surface.
is obstructing it. Right? If
But
there's a hill,
you
then it's
decided
gonna
the
set.
mountains. You decided that the 30-mile mountain range was an obstruction.
Right? It
It-
might be
but
higher
it
than the
can't-
horizon, yes.
It can't be on your Earth, your 24901 Earth. It can't be
Why not?
because it's set 20 miles away, dude.
It doesn't
already
set.
set.
It's the horizon. Holy shit.
It already set. We
Do I
can't be
have to draw
talking
this?
about the mountains. We can't be talking about the mountains.
My
So
brain
it's set
is
relative
honestly
to what?
exploding.
Relative to what?
Your position relative to your observer position.
Okay. And
Hang on. If let's say that the water horizon is at 20 miles, right? And then there are hills or mountains or whatever at 30 miles, which are high
No.
enough.
Don't mix the two because you pretended 20 miles was good until we got over land, and then you started playing refractive games. So let's just go to
No
land.
refraction.
Where does my sun sit over land? Don't include a mountain yet. Just tell me where does my sun set over.
With
Don't
no
include the mountain
elevation,
yet.
like a flat.
Don't include any weird variables that give you time to have weird variables because I don't have any. I'm looking across a great plain.
Okay. Or a great smooth ball, right? And my thing.
I'm just
Right, smooth
I'm
ball.
able to see the 30 miles before there's an obstruction of a mountain.
Yeah.
So
Let's say
where's
20
my
miles.
sunset?
I use it
Where does my sun set now?
at the horizon, which is 20 miles,
Okay, so
right?
why do you think it would ever set behind your mountains?
Because the mountains are high enough to appear above the horizon and be visible.
But the horizon disappeared already.
What do you mean disappeared?
It already should have been cut off.
No, the mountains are high enough to be above the horizon. That's what's happening in all these photos.
and high enough
Mile
to
marker.
obstruct the sun as it's setting.
Yeah, but when we take them away, the story changes because they were only a mile marker. Just like the island, when you see half of the sun behind the island and half not, it's just a mile marker. It's not. It doesn't matter. Like I said, how bright it is, how big it
Yeah.
is. It's just a mile marker, and it's a different mile marker than your expectation mathematically at 20 miles. It is. It's showing that it's setting somewhere else. Like I said, take the mountain out, make it a longer plane, a vaster plane, like an ocean, for instance.
The mountains in this St. Vincent Barbados one, right? The mountains are 110 miles away. They are tall enough to appear above the horizon. Yes?
But the horizon's 20 miles away.
Right.
It's over with. The sun's set. It's gone. There's no
It's not
angle.
gone. You can
There's
see
no.
it.
There's no angle anymore. In your description of 20-mile sunset, there's no longer an angle of.
20-mile horizon.
There's no longer an angle available to see that sun in the.
What angle are we talking about? A depression angle, elevation angle?
Just your eyes can no longer see over the ball.
Right.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah, I can't see almost a kilometre of the mountain and more than half of the sun in that shot because the horizon's at 20 miles away.
So if you were to map this out in your head, forget these shots. Let me just map it out with your length. The sun sets about 20 miles away.
The horizon's 20 miles away.
But yet, in these pictures, the sun sets 50 and 110.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
That can't be any clearer.
Is anyone else having extreme trouble with this?
Clean up on aisle 5. Roohif's brain is all over the floor.
I'm fucking mush, honestly.
Oh, we need a heavy cleanup.
Is the sun in front or behind these objects?
It's obviously behind them. The mountains are tall enough.
Exactly. Right? So what's it doing back there when it should have set already?
The mountains are high enough to appear above the horizon.
Fuck the mountains.
What do you mean, fuck the mountains? Oh, holy shit.
We're dealing with your sun and your ball. I don't need a mountain to talk about it. We're dealing with your sun and your ball.
Okay, take the mountains away, and it's just the horizon blocking it then.
I wish all my problems were as easy as you. I wish everyone was as easy.
Is anyone else? Is there another glober or a flat earther who can either, I don't know, fucking make me feel better about not understanding, or can explain Dan to me? I'm struggling to understand why it's such.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello.
is that? Yeah. Hello.
Hi. I think the confusion is that when you say 20, the horizon is 20 miles away, because that depends from the elevation. So maybe that's what confusing. It's not,
Let's throw in some variables. Yeah, let's just throw elevation in there just so you got something to talk about. You guys are silly.
Wait.
Do you guys break out more tissue when somebody comes up with something like that?
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, this is gonna be good.
So,
Elevation. I'm gonna hit them with elevation because refraction isn't working.
I'm just saying that the horizon is not at 20 miles away. Depends if you are lower or higher. Like the sun can set 3 miles away if you are down at the beach. But if you are on a terrace, it can be 15 miles away, you know? So 20 miles is, I think that's what is confusing. But I don't understand. The sun is always in the background. There is no way it's going to be closer than mountain. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, I go back to
McDonald's close. Your sunrise and sunset should be McDonald's close.
Everything sets at the horizon. If you want to call that mountain setting, that's fine.
I'm just able to use an object to mark the distance to that sun, and it blows your math out of the water.
What? The sun is 93 million miles away.
But it's set behind the city, in this case, 50 miles away.
The horizon is behind the mountains. If you could see through mountains, the horizon would be through the mountains.
which is basically what
Yeah.
can occur.
So, hang on.
3 layers like that. Yeah, exactly. The horizon will go beyond where it was previously.
The horizon's at 20 miles. The island is at 110 miles. The sun is at 93 million miles. Right? The island.
No.
is higher.
No. The sun isn't on the same plane you were just doing measurement.
It's
Well,
where the
it's
sun
fun.
hits the Earth on your globe model, Roohif. It's not really about the 93 million. It's the angle by which you claim the light is hitting the
Please
big
draw
it
the
is,
angle.
how
Please
big
draw
it
it.
is.
the leading edge of the sphere.
Yeah, how big it is,
Right.
how bright it is, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't. It's got to go over out of sight at the same point as my boat, man. It does.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
everything does.
No,
everything
it doesn't.
Unless
I'm
there's an
showing you.
obstruction.
How many examples do I need to show you of a distant sun?
Well, it depends. There's like a big mountain, right? And
No,
And it's-
only when you introduce the word mountain is there a big mountain.
But your photo has a big mountain, which again
I
has
have
gone
sent
out
you
of sight
many photos. Not all of them have a mountain. I
Right.
live in a wide open coastline.
Yeah.
You know where I live, so there's no
Uh,
mountains.
California.
And I can play with Catalina or Santa Barbara. There's some islands I want to play with, and we know their distance, and they're only mileage markers. They're not obstructions. I don't need to keep them as obstructions. They're
But
just
it's-
So
mileage.
if you're
the
not seeing
horizon.
down to the shore, like if there's obstruction of the mountain,
But let's say it's not, because most of the
The
year
horizon.
it's not. Most of the year it's not.
What?
It doesn't set behind. My sun does not set behind Catalina unless I go
Okay.
further south and wait till winter.
okay,
It sets in the water right there next to it.
yeah, okay,
But I know its distance. It's 30 miles away.
right. But the horizon
So
will
why
block the
didn't my
sun.
20-mile sunset happen? Why? Why didn't
The
it happen?
horizon will block the same horizon will block the sun
it
bottom
didn't
up
but it
and
didn't
block
happen.
the mountain.
I didn't see a horizon. I didn't see a sunset. Neither. Why?
What? You didn't see a sunset? What do you mean?
Yeah, because I'm seeing past 20 miles. I still see the sun.
You're seeing the sun above the horizon, and it's however many million miles away, right?
No, it's on the horizon, which is on Earth.
Right.
So the 93 million miles away is a fantasy land.
However far you want it, 3,000 miles, whatever.
It doesn't matter. You're spaced out when you think the distance matters. That's where
Just to
you're
be
lost.
clear,
That's
to
where
be
you're
clear,
lost.
right?
That's where you're totally lost.
To be clear.
Unless you're trolling. You're
To be
lost
clear,
in thinking
this-
the distance. We're talking about angle and we're talking about a sphere. Think about now why distance doesn't matter.
Hang on. Let me draw what I think.
Let me tell you 93 million reasons why it doesn't matter.
Let me draw something. Hold on.
So that's where your confusion starts. Is you think
No,
the distant sun has different angles. It
Yeah.
doesn't. The Earth has one angle to offer.
Hang on.
And when it's reduced down to zero is when
I'm gonna draw.
that sun is out of sight and that boat is out of sight. And we're figuring it happens between 10 and 20 miles away,
Hang on a second.
depending on all factors. So that 30 mile, that 50 mile, that 100-mile sunset is not possible on the globe model.
Hang on a second.
Ben, I just wanted to say this argument blew my mind now, and I did DM you as well to say thank you because wow, this
It's too simple. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, right? It's too fucking simple. It's everywhere. It's the sunrise. It's the sunset. There's islands off of these things. There's wide bays. We only need 10 miles to play with. 20 miles. This is good.
All right, I've posted.
I think, I
I've
just
posted a
say,
picture.
Wow, it really blew my mind. Wow.
I've posted a picture
That makes
of
me
the
feel
sun.
so good. I can't tell you how good that makes me feel. Thank you.
All right, I've posted a picture. Right, I've just drawn a shitty painting. Right, there's half a sun blocking the mountain.
Where do you
Is
get
that
half
what you
boats?
expect?
Roohif, where do I buy half boats? I just want to know, where do I buy a half boat? Because you guys talk to me about half boats a lot, and I have only whole boats. So
Right.
I hope you could talk to me about whole suns and not half suns.
Right. So there's half a sun, right? But it's blocking. It's blocking the mountain. Is that what you expect to see?
Yes.
Are you fucking serious? You got to be trolling, surely.
Your math requires that to be where it sets. Because your
You think
math
the
says
sun-
I can't see the island. Do you remember that? Your math says I can't see the island at all.
No, my math says that it should see about 950 meters or more
Okay.
above,
So-
right?
Okay. So in the
Yeah.
in the case of Catalina, it's supposed to be 300 feet of a missing island. At
Okay,
that
whatever.
distance. So whatever's right. So
Yeah.
what are you saying is that you have a different horizon available to you for what reason?
No, there's one horizon, but what I've posted in the chat, I've just drawn a shitty yellow half sun. Do you expect the sun to block the mountain?
No, the mountain isn't going to be in view.
It is in view.
Let's say there's no mountain.
Okay.
In other words, put it to the right, like the sun
Yeah.
is partially blocked to the left. Put it
Yeah.
partially blocked to the right. So I just want to make sure we can talk about the water line and the
Right.
apparent horizon.
Right.
Well, so I can close my eyes and listen to what my friend Roohif says. It's going to happen around 20 miles away.
The horizon is 20 miles away. Anything that
So
is
the
further
sunset
away will be
happens
blocked.
there. The sunset
Right.
happens there.
Anything happens there. Any obstruction starts to happen there. Yes.
So
That's-
I don't care about the island behind it right now
Okay.
because it shouldn't be in the picture. It shouldn't be in my. It can't
It's
block
high
the
enough.
sun. It can't block the sun because the sun already set. Why
No,
don't
the
you get
mountain
that?
is high enough. The mountain is high enough to be seen above the horizon.
Wow. Okay,
What?
so what if we're
This is
next to the
insane.
mountain? Yeah. What? I'm surprised if I'm that ignorant that I'm missing something here, because you're establishing the distance of the sunset. You are
Establishing the distance to the horizon.
right. 20 miles. You're calling it.
Right. Yes.
So why
Anything
does-
beyond that needs to
why
have some.
why doesn't your own drawing just wildly freak you out?
My
this is
drawing.
exactly-
So, yeah.
Well, it reminds me of the Canada situation where you've got, the sun is setting behind the mountains at 273 miles. And
273 Ks, I think.
what I'm going to say is a little bit, no, it's miles, 273 miles. Well, then
No.
so it's much more in kilometers.
It's
This is-
273 Ks.
This is perhaps related to what Dan's saying, but it's not necessarily the exact same thing, although it's similar. And it reminds me of this inconsistency. Well, it's more than an inconsistency. It's a complete impossibility geometrically. So imagine on a globe, okay, you got this globe. Canada is 273 miles. Canada should be around the curve.
Kilometers.
The Canada Mountains should be around the curve, shouldn't be visible at all. However, they're visible. Okay, so there's already, you would claim this refraction or something that's bending it, making it bend over, just to have it be
Yeah.
right on the horizon in that sense. The thing is with the sun is not bent around the other side of the earth. The sun is straight. So if that's really the
Why
curve of
is
the
it
earth,
straight? What do you mean?
because the sun goes from that viewpoint position, your viewpoint goes straight to the 93 million mile sun. But Canada,
No, it goes through the atmosphere.
hold on, let me finish what I'm saying. You're looking at the sun as it's setting, so it's going over the curve of the sphere in your model. The thing is that Canada, the mountain of Canada, is actually all the way around the curve. It's around the bend. So you're
So
already
is the sun.
So you're already having to claim that Canada is being brought up, like the whole. You're seeing this curved path as you try to say, and you're seeing around the corner, but it's like bending it, basically bringing it up straight, and it's bringing it to be in line straight with the sun. So you've got this kind of straight, unrefracted sun, but somehow your refraction has to forget that the sun goes straight, and it has to make something that's around the curve. So to bring the thing that's around the curve up in line with the sun, it's an impossibility. It's like
So the light coming from the sun hits our atmosphere and is then refracted. It's actually refracted more than the mountain because it goes through our entire atmosphere.
But it's putting the sun behind the mountain, even though the mountain is around the corner.
Right, so is the sun.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
The sun's right on the horizon.
No, the actual position of the sun is actually below the horizon. It's geometric position at the moment.
Well, the thing we see, I mean, if you want to claim this 8 minutes and all this other stuff, the circle that we see, we call the sun, the circle.
Not 8 minutes, right? It takes a tiny fraction of a second for the sunlight to travel through our atmosphere. The path from the sun is straight until it hits our atmosphere, and then it curves.
Right, but again, I hear that's okay. But when during the Canada observation, you've got the sun and the mountain. The sun is behind the mountain. Again, on a globe Earth, because of the curvature that should be there, it should be all the way around the bend. So the actual mountain is around the bend. Somehow somehow you already have to describe this like unsubstantiated form of refraction where you see around corners. Not only do you see around corners, it lifts it up to be level. It lifts it up to look planar. So let's just go with that for a second. Let's just say you're on a globe and there's just this crazy thing out there happening that is lifting this whole mountain up thousands of feet and then displaying it as a perfect level horizon. Let's just say that's happening. Now bring the sun into it. And on the globe model, the sun is actually because it's setting, it's at the point of where the globe cuts off, you know what I mean, from, as it were. The problem is that point that it cuts off is closer than the mountain that's already all the way around the curve. So it has to do this double vector refraction thing that is even more impossible, where it would have to bring the mountain up and it would have to line it up with the sun. So it would have to not refract the sun, but refract the entire mountain and then bring it in front of it. It's just completely incompatible.
Oh, I can't count the number of wrong things you said then. Holy shit.
Anyways, it reminds me of what Dan's saying, because it has to do with mountains and suns and where the leading edge of a sphere should actually be in comparison to where these mountains are and to where the sun is. That's where the key to understanding this is. The position of the sun and the mountains and their distances don't correlate with a consistent spherical geometry.
Nice wording, thank you.
Wow. We'll ignore refraction for a minute and just assume light goes straight. We have 3 locations. The horizon, we'll call it 20 miles. The island, 110 miles. And the sun, much, much further away, whatever it is, 3,000 miles, whatever. The horizon at 20 miles...
It's all about angle.
Okay, draw it. Please draw it. Please draw this angle. I would love to see it.
My observer point, the sun disappears at what I'm going to call 0 degree. Right?
Do you mean horizontal, as in your eye line, your eye level, horizontal?
I don't care what you call it. I have to go by your definitions. So I don't care what you call any of this stuff or how you measure any of this stuff. I'm just saying you've got a job to do. You've got to explain to me why the sun isn't obstructing these things, these objects, and why they're obstructing the sun.
Fuck. Oh, shit. The sun is further away. The end.
So you're really confused about what...
I'm so confused. The sun is further away than the mountain. Right?
So why am I seeing that sun still at these distances? Why didn't it set already?
It's still above the horizon.
That's where the confusion is. Because
Must be.
You and I know what we're asking now, and I'm asking,
no, I don't.
Why didn't the sun set where it's supposed to? And you know what I mean
so
by
much.
Well, 20 miles away. Why didn't my sun set 20 miles away?
It is setting 20 miles away at the horizon. That's where the horizon is. It is setting at the horizon.
So what new horizon is there at 110 miles that they're playing with?
There isn't.
Oh,
You could say that the mountain is setting at the horizon as well, right? There's only a few hundred meters of the mountain visible. They're both obstructed by the horizon, which is 20 miles away.
I swear, I feel like we're interviewing a petty thief who's saying I didn't do it.
Well,
And-
have you got anything to add?
I mean, I think you're dead to rights here. That I don't see how you can deny these differences, and why you don't see the question, much less the answer. You don't even see the
Yeah.
question.
When I posted that photo where I've shittily drawn the half yellow sun in front of the mountain, is that what you think should happen?
It has to happen. You keep telling me where the horizon
I
is. The horizon
can't
is.
believe I have to say this. The sun is further away than the mountain, right? The mountain will therefore block the sun.
So why don't you take the mountain out of it, like in the picture, before you?
Okay.
In other words, forget it as an obstruction. Let's say it's a week later, a month later, and the sun is not obstructed, but we kind of know it sets over there, right?
Okay.
In other words, we are admitting that in all of these pictures, the sun is obstructed by the objects. Correct?
Yeah.
Well, you don't understand that the sun should have set prior to that, mathematically, based on angle and observer position. The sun should not have been available to that object. Let's phrase it that way.
If the mountain's not there,
and the sun already set,
but it hasn't already set. It's still above the horizon.
No, it's set at 20 miles distance from my position.
That's where the horizon is.
Right. So what am I seeing at 100 or 50 miles?
The mountains that are high enough to be seen over the horizon.
We're not seeing mountains. We're seeing, let's say,
I can't do this anymore.
What's wrong?
I can't do it.
You're including a mountain that we don't need in this observation. It's only been a mile mark.
Okay.
And you've already admitted that it's good as a mile marker.
Right.
You know that the sun is setting in the distance.
Yes. It's getting blocked by the horizon.
The sun, which sun now? Your front one or your back one?
Both the sun and the mountain are obscured by the horizon 20 miles away. Well, this is honestly blowing my mind, Dan.
If that were the case, I wouldn't have a problem. But
what do you think? The mountain shouldn't be obscured, or what are we saying?
Taking the mountain out of your observation, just like I did in the desert. Remember, we did this over land, and you really never finished. So let's go back over land.
Yep.
So I'm looking across a distance, and I know that my sun should set around 20 miles away, or a new calculation you want to make up.
Just 20, we're a perfectly smooth surface, round ball, 20 miles away horizon.
And instead of putting the mountains at 30 miles, now I'm going to put them at 70 miles away, just for shits and giggles. So my sun should have already set at this fixed, measurable, calculatable point that you tell me on a globe, because of the size of the globe. So I would be shocked to see the sun setting anywhere else.
Are these mountains high enough to be above the horizon?
I have not included mountains.
Okay, so then it's setting at 20 miles.
The sun set at 20 miles away.
That's where the horizon is, yep.
But the mountains don't matter because they're 70 miles away.
And not visible.
It's really, in the case of the island, I'm next to it, so it doesn't matter. So let's say we're shooting down a gorge. Let's say I can see the sun hitting the water. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're just looking at two distances that you're not recognizing them. Your mathematical distance and the reality. The reality is sun setting too far away. Boom. Too far away. Sun is setting too far away. It's not setting where you drew it, where it should.
If there's no mountain, then yes, it is. The horizon is the thing it's setting behind, as opposed to the mountain. There's no mountain.
The mile marker we're calling a mountain is way beyond your horizon.
Okay, can it be seen though? Can the mountain be seen?
Doesn't matter because we're only looking for
Well, it
sun.
does.
No, we're only looking for a boat in the sun. We're not looking for a mountain. That's the whole thing. We're really looking for our boat versus our sun.
Your boat. Is your boat over the horizon? Is it visible beyond the horizon?
I think at 10 miles, you're calling it 20. So, yes, let's call it that. Yes, my boat has now gone out of sight.
Okay.
I expect my sunset to be on that line just as you
Yes.
drew my sunset. My boat's already invisible. My sun is dropping to the same point. Right? The sun is going to go all the way down right there. It's not going to go anywhere else.
Yep.
Okay, so what the fuck is to the left? What is in the original? Since you drew it as it has to be, thank you for doing that. What the hell am I showing on the left? Now that simplifies it a lot, Roohif, and that's cool that you did this because really you drew it as it has to be. Yet, what am I seeing on the left? What is the picture of?
And Roohif, I've just got to say here that I was struggling to keep up with Dan, but you have simplified it to the point where I've just fell in because of what you said. And Dan is actually a bang on point with this one.
Yeah, that's what happened with me now.
There's a mountain, the island.
Thank you, Roohif. Thank you
The
very,
island.
very much for
No,
that.
Sure.
Not Roohif, the other way around.
Roohif simplified it to the point where I fell in. So I was struggling to keep up with Dan, and then Roohif broke it down. But Dan's point, good point, well made, but Roohif helped me fall in.
Yeah, oh, okay. So Dan helped me fall onto flat Earth side.
I love the ballers. The ballers these days are so helpful to me. I really.
Yeah, I love them too, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't come to any other conclusion except that you're trolling. Like I just can't.
Roohif, how can the whole room be trolling you?
You were one lovable guy. Roohif, you were one lovable guy. I just have to admit that. You are quite the gentleman.
I'm not understanding how the mountain is closer than the sun, but you expect the sun to block the mountain. That's utterly insane.
Let me explain it. Let me explain it like this. You live in a false world. They've lied to you about everything. And you are literally programmed to believe what they tell you, regardless of observations that you can make.
That something closer will block something further away?
Yeah.
You're definitely trolling. Definitely trolling. All right. I'm going to go feed the dogs. Thanks for that.
They must be really fat dogs by now, Roohif.
every day. Every day, DP.
That's funny.
All right. See you guys.
Catch you later.
That dog line, that was a good one. A good comeback. You have to know that he always says that to them.
Absolutely. Whenever Roohif needs an out, he needs to feed the dogs.
I've laughed so much on that. Oh,
so yeah, I'm actually going through some of my old footage here. I was trying to figure this out, and yeah, I can't believe how simple you made this. Just saying the geometry was like, oh fuck, that makes so much more sense. Why I saw this the sun, for instance, here, and why I'm seeing the horizon and the ships there, and so on and so forth. And I was like, wow, thank you.
I don't know how we missed it. It's just too simple. That's why they can't see it. Sunset's got to be close. Sunrise has got to be close. I love calling it McDonald's close because I'm really hitting it home how close it has to be. It would burn you. That's how close. No, it's not really close. It's the angle.
Yeah.
Is reduced. Yeah.
And that explains why it flattens out as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This picture he drew really helps a lot. It must have killed him at the end when he goes, "Why did I draw that? What am I saying?" What is that in the picture? What is
His
the
sunset
original?
picture- Our explanations in his sunset picture, basically in his sunset picture.
He says, let me get this straight. You think something in front of something blocks something. Yeah.
That's the way it normally works.
I do. Crazy flurf logic.
Dan, what the hell are you doing up, man?
I did it yesterday too, but you know what? My life sucks, but I'm so kicking ass in Flat Earth right now. And Flat Earth has let me down. I'm like fighting back with a vengeance. I go, I don't need those fuckers. You know, and unfortunately, all my best friends, even on here, have been totally horrible to me for years. My Flat Earth friends are horrible. All of them have been the worst. Starting out with the Poncho Pete crap, and they were all drunks and miserable there. And then moving up, didn't help.
Hey, was that answer to me when I said, Dan, what are you doing up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I still don't know why you're up then. I mean, why are you awake?
Because I'm obsessed. Flat Earth is a fucking drug to me. It's really bad news.
Are you ready? Are you ready, man? We got it. Have you heard the news? The great survey off.
What's that?
We did some brainstorming last night and thinking about starting a